our clients who have successfully retired early or are planning to retire early in the next few years have all asked themselves some very crucial questions that led them to ultimately make this decision. And these aren't just financial questions, but some of the most important ones that determine whether they were truly ready. So in this video, we're going to go through some of the most important questions they use to guide their decision to retire early. And I personally believe that if you can confidently answer yes to these questions, you might be ready to retire early just like they did. What's surprising is that many people, a lot of clients at least, admit that they avoided these questions for a long time because they just didn't really want to face reality. But once they addressed them, they realized that they didn't have to work longer than necessary. Now, instead of looking back with regret, they can enjoy the life they've worked so hard to achieve. So let's jump right into the first question, and it is, do you have cash? Yes, cash in the bank is important, but the cash that I'm talking about is an acronym I just made up, and it means, number one, have you calculated your retirement needs? Have you calculated exactly how much you'll need to live on to have a comfortable retirement? It's not just about saving, it's about knowing how much to withdraw each year from each account, and of course, not running out. Number two is, have you assessed all your income sources? Are you factoring in if you have a pension or rental income, Social Security and investments, or are you just simply relying on a basic 4% rule because that just doesn't tell the whole picture? So the next one is S. Do you have a safety net for emergencies? Have you set aside a bucket of money for healthcare, bear markets, or any sort of home repair? Because one financial shock could potentially ruin your whole plan. So you want to be prepared. And lastly, the H stands for healthcare costs and long-term care. Obviously, some of these costs can escalate as you age. So have you planned for rising healthcare expenses or premiums if you retire early, and also any sort of long-term care needs that could affect you down the road? Now, there's a simulated model that factored in all these things like changes in health, nursing home costs, and demographics, and found that about 45% of Americans who leave the workforce at 65 are likely to run out of money during retirement. And this is a model run by Morningstar, and it showed that the risk is even higher for a single woman who had a 55% chance of running out of money versus 40% for single men, and then 41% for couples, which is pretty shocking. So if you've actually run the numbers or you're working with a planner to help you and you know you have enough to live on and live the retirement lifestyle that you want, that is a huge step. And it's honestly a lot more than most people do. The reality is, if you can say yes and you have run the numbers, you might be in a better position to retire early than you realize. Because if you've done the work and you know your numbers, why wait any longer? Now, obviously, having the financials to execute this is critical, but it's not the only factor in determining if you're ready to retire. The other question, the next one you need to ask yourself is, do you know how you'll spend your time in retirement? I like to say, if you think of retirement sort of like a road trip, sure, having enough gas in the tank being your finances essentially to get you there, but it's not the only thing that matters. You wouldn't want to go hit the road with no destination in mind because you'll end up driving in circles, wasting time, money, and energy. In the same way, having enough money without a plan for how you might spend your days in retirement might make you feel lost and sometimes even unfulfilled. That's why I found this quote by Mitch Anthony. It really resonates really deeply with a lot of people. And it says, don't retire from something, retire to something. Without a clear direction, even the best financial plan in the world can't ensure that your retirement will be rewarding. But we don't have to overcomplicate this. Some of the best advice I've heard from clients I work with is not to go through paralysis analysis. Something as simple as traveling more, maybe doing more of a hobby that you've been putting off, or simply spending more time with your loved ones is enough to give you purpose and structure to your days. And a lot of my clients say that now is even more productive than when they were working. So they're really finding no problem filling their days. So if you understand this and can answer yes, you're likely ready to retire early. But let's talk about the next question. And to better understand this, we need to look at this chart I'm going to pull up right here. And what happens in life with anything, especially when it comes to the point for those that are nearing retirement. For many of us, the more time you invest in work beyond a certain threshold, the less reward you actually get back in terms of value, right? Yes, if you continue to work, the more money you might be able to save and the more money you'll probably continue to make. But for some of us, the return in terms of quality of life may start to decline because they say one thing is guaranteed in life, and that is death. And taxes. Of course, they say and taxes. In fact, if you wait too long, you might even start to hit the point where you start to get into the negative return territory, where some of that time that you lost can never be regained. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the end of the video. But What I've learned is that if you're already feeling that desire to be present with the people that really matter in your life, and you're starting to get to this point where, hey, I feel like this job I'm in is starting to come to the point of diminishing returns, it might be a sign that you're at that point in your career. And the best way to shift into positive returns might be to go back, right? Retire early, or maybe go to a different chapter where you can go back to a very productive phase of your life. Okay, so the next question is one that I think will probably hit home for a lot of you. I know sometimes in my life that I need to sort of rethink what's going on. And the question goes, is what you're currently doing getting in the way of helping you live a healthy lifestyle? Just like we talked about diminishing returns in your job, naturally, obviously, as we age, so does your health. So maybe where you're at, there's more stress and effort that's piling on. And as time goes on, you notice that maybe you don't have quite as much time to go towards your health and your well-being, and that's going to start to decline. And there's a big difference I've noticed between life expectancy and health expectancy. And they find that the average health expectancy, at least where I live in the United States, is only about 66 years old. Now that means that somebody who lives a long time may not live a long time in good health. So a lot of my clients that I talk with that are planning to retire early understand this, and they understand that the longer they stay in this cycle of ignoring their health, the harder it becomes to reclaim it. And that's something that is really hard to get back. And one of the more common reasons actually that people end up being forced into an early retirement. So if you find yourself saying yes to this question, if your work is taking a toll on your body, whether it's mental or physical, or just because you don't have the time to focus on your health, it might be a good time to step away and focus your time on bringing back the balance that maybe your health deserves. And lastly, and this one is arguably one of the more important questions to ask yourself, and it is, are you in the camp of always saying, I will do this when I have more time? When I talk with clients that have retired, many of them are really good savers. It's actually really hard psychologically to transition to going from saving to spending for a lot of them. But what they realize is that they can't just keep telling themselves, I'm going to do all these things when I have more time. And this obviously isn't an argument to go jump ship and blindly go into retirement, but life always has a way of throwing curveballs. I mean, for example, if we take Steve Jobs, right? Despite being a visionary, an innovator, a billionaire, he passed away just at the age of 56. Now, even Jobs himself once said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. His story essentially reminds us that even the most successful people who have it all can't predict how much time they really have. And we all know someone who ended up going too soon. Regardless of whether retiring early is what you need, maybe it's just finding a new job or a project that is fulfilling or just keeps you sharp. But what a lot of my clients care about the most is how they're going to spend their time going forward. You know, something that was really eye-opening for me is if we look at our life in terms of boxes, let's say we were to live 90 years, we all have about the same or a similar amount of boxes, and it's not forever. It's clearly not going to be going on to perpetuity. And for you, maybe those boxes represent the next adventure of what you'll do in retirement, or maybe it just reconfirms you're exactly where you want to be right now. Now, either way, these years are a huge opportunity for you. You have the wisdom, you have the financial resources, and every blank box is a new opportunity. So if you answer yes, and you find yourself repeating the mantra over and over and over again, that I'll do this when I have more time, you probably need to start planning this out right now to help you overcome that friction of just getting started and then start to build momentum for really what matters. At the end of the day, retirement isn't just about having enough money. It's about closing one chapter and starting a new, fresh, and exciting one. So if you run the numbers, you have a plan for, hey, essentially, here's how I want to spend my time. If you want more moments of doing what you've been putting off and maybe take care of your health passions, then maybe you're someone who should retire as soon as you can. For some of you watching, the cost of inaction might be your health, your relationships, or something else that you know in your heart that you want to be doing. If you can answer yes to these questions, then why wait? But there are some times where you have to be brutally honest with yourself, whether early retirement is what you need, or maybe you just need to find a new job. I made a video that you should definitely watch, and it goes through some of the most important lessons I've learned from some of our clients to help you be prepared to retire early and avoid some of the biggest regrets of doing so. You can watch that by clicking right here. Once again, this is Matt Calcagno, certified financial planner and advisor over here at 1 Degree Advisors. If you'd like to talk to me or someone on my team about your plan to potentially retire early, click the link in the description below and we would love to chat with you.